Hello and good evening from a frosty Thursday night in central London. So I'm just gonna try and not be run over by a car here. How are you? It's good to see you again. I don't know how the videos on this channel have quickly turned into me walking around places and filming myself, but it seems that that's the kind of niche that the last few videos are going into. And so rather than fight against the tide, it's always better to swim with it. Just finished another day at the office. We're gonna go home. And once again, I figured, why resort to the boring, standard public transport, such as the bus or the tube, when one could walk through the glorious streets of London all the way home to eat a salad. That's what we fought all these wars for. So join me. Tonight we are walking in a similar kind of way to a couple of nights ago. We're going east from Holborn in central-ish London, through Chancery Lane towards Clerkenwell, Farringdon, to Old Street, and then into Shoreditch, and into the east, where the people are cool, the pants are loose, and I, as an uncool person, look like a silly goose. As we walk here eastward, past Chancery Lane now, I do want to kind of reflect on the concept of worrying about what other people think. 3 days ago, when I made the first of these videos, I think I've made one a day for the last few days, the idea of me pulling out my silly little phone in public and filming myself was a pretty terrifying thought, because you're thinking, well, don't I look like a right tosser filming myself? And that thought has a lot of merit to it. Let's be clear on that one. That doesn't change at all. But what's really interesting is that through a tiny little bit of repetition, things become a lot easier. And you also realize very quickly that despite the fact that many people walking past you are rightly thinking to themselves, why? That guy's a tosser. At the end of the day, who really cares? Isn't everyone out there just a bit of an NPC? Aren't you yourself total YouTube noob evidence? Once again, as I was filming and talking there, I didn't even realize that my camera had turned off, that my phone had run out of storage space. What a fool. Anyway, I was basically saying that, yeah, it's the third day in a row of pulling my phone out in public to film random things as I walk by. And it's funny the kind of wimpy little excuses and voices that go in our head when we're worrying about what other people think. We're kind of concerned about judgment of others. Like, oh, that person might think I'm weird if I film in public. Oh, who cares, mate? No one cares. Do you think that this bloke in his car up here gives absolutely two tosses about whether some guy walking down the street is filming on his phone? He doesn't care. He's just trying to get home. He's just trying to go where he has to go. Everyone is so busy wrapped up in their own lives. No one gives two zinger boxes. No one gives two pieces of popcorn chicken about what you're doing. See? She doesn't care. So why would you care? You just gotta carry on. That's what my Papa John always told me. Onwards, my friends. It's a funny old thing, the whole concept of worrying about what other people think. I've technically had this channel since 2015. 2015 was the very first time that I put a video on this YouTube channel. That's nearly 10 years ago, mate. That's ridiculous to think about. Back when I first made the very first video, I was terrified to post it. I had years of cool little silly little GoPro footage from backpacking as a smelly, shaggy uni student, doing little backpack trips every now and then. I was terrified to put it on YouTube. I was terrified about what other people would think. I was terrified that it wasn't some professionally cut video, and so as a result, no one would really care about it. And ultimately, I was terrified about being judged by other people. And I was, in my mid-20s at the time. And in many ways, all those things were justified. I put it out there. No one really watched it. Fair enough. It wasn't a very good video. Fair enough. Because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I had a lot of friends at the time who took the piss out of me for putting it up there. And fair enough. Because Why would anyone care? Why would anyone think that just because you make a video and you put it out there on YouTube that you're owed some kind of positive response from people? You got the natural cross-section of human responses in there as well. There were some people who were supportive of it. There were some people who actively took the piss out of it. But the vast majority of people just didn't care because they were going on with their own lives. And you got the expected bell curve almost of human responses. Some little extremes on either end, positive or negative. But then the vast majority of people fall into that middle ground of just not really caring. It's funny how we will naturally assume or focus on both ends of the spectrum. We'll kind of yearn and cry out for the really positive responses, and we'll try and cling on to them and seek them out like it's this life or death situation. And we'll focus, probably more so than anything, on any kind of negative responses we get. We'll think that it's the end of the world if someone makes a negative comment to us or laughs at us or ridicules us. And it's crazy. But anyway, my point is that I first put a video on this YouTube channel 10 years ago, terrified about what other people think. Since then, there's been maybe 20 videos, 15 videos, spread out over like 10 years. So that's a run rate of almost a video a year. And so much of the reason why has been the same kind of feelings of fear, of judgment, and worrying about what other people think. When at the end of the day, the vast majority of people could not give an absolute toss. You can spend a lot of time really concerned about what the reaction's going to be. Doesn't really matter, because time's going to pass on and you're either going to do the things that you want to do or you're not. And if you ask me, if you're not doing the things that you really want to do, if you're not doing the things that kind of make you happy or give you some kind of joy, even if it's something as flimsy and small like a hobby like this, then what's the point? You're just wasting time. And positive reaction, negative reaction, neutral reaction or not, doesn't change the fact that it's something that you want to do. What's stopping you? Your fears and your excuses are just bullshit, mate. At the end of the day, they don't count for anything. And I can tell you as someone who's like in my early 30s, and I posted a video on YouTube first 10 years ago, is that there's no point wasting any time. Like, for what? So you might as well just do it anyway. Those are my thoughts. We are now entering one of my preferred locations in this city, which is the lovely Exmouth Market. Exmouth Market is a strip, a stroll, a leisurely coming togethers of bars, cafes, restaurants, pubs, all on this kind of pedestrianized, semi-pedestrianized. I don't know what the law is with cars. There's a car right there, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, very vibey. It's very cool. Once again, the potato-like qualities of this camera are not doing it justice in any kind of fair form. And yet, you'll have to settle with this anyway. Excellent pub in the Exmouth Arms. But several other venues down here are very good as well. Cafe Kick, another famous venue. You can go have some tapas, watch some football, pretend you're in a more civilized part of Europe. Is UK part of Europe? That's not for me to answer. That's for the majority of Brexit voters to answer. If you were to ask people around the streets of central to east London, you would get a different answer to the majority of the UK that voted for Brexit. Let's put it bluntly that way. But anyway, as I've said before, this channel is beyond the scope of political conversations, economic conversations, but I will take pot shots, as is my wont, because who's holding the camera? It's me. Cheers. Let's keep walking. Coin Laundry, another excellent pub. Not as excellent as some others, but still firmly in the category of excellent. I'm not going to go into any, by the way. I'm sorry. If you're waiting for me to go in and film myself scull 3 pints, thank you, sir. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. Maybe some of you would like to see that, but I'm not drinking at the moment. And that may sound like a really boring thing to say, but you know what's cool? Waking up without a hangover. You know what's cool? Having a few Guinness Zeros and then heading home. You know what's cool? Paying your taxes. The topic of booze is a big one. Maybe one we'll unpack on these videos sometime. But until then, you just get to watch potato footage of me walking through the streets of London. Lucky you. All right. But yeah, it's a funny thing, the idea about worrying about what other people think. I think it's fair to say that I've always considered myself a pretty insecure guy. Like, I've always struggled a little bit about worrying about what other people think. Naturally, to a large degree, that's That's pretty core to the human experience. I don't think there's many of us who can kind of say that they live completely free of that ailment. As I said, I think I've released maybe 20 videos on this YouTube channel since that first one in 2015. And that run rate is shocking. For so many days over those 10 odd years, I thought about how I'd like to make more videos, how it'd be fun, how it's kind of cool. It's like a little creative outlet. But I would so easily get suckered into this spiral of overthinking and self-doubt and worrying about what the reaction of other people would be. I'd think, oh, I need to sit down and I need to brainstorm an idea, and then I need to script it, and then I need to think about every intricate detail on what that video should have. And even then, about 1 minute after actually starting that process, I would think, this is silly, this is going to suck, no one's going to want to watch this. And again, despite the fact that all those things are probably true, what really matters is like the kind of self-sabotage that goes on in that moment when you decide that you're not going to continue the thing that you actually want to do because you're worried about some obscure, abstract idea of what other people will think. Each time that you reaffirm that behavioral pattern, you kind of keep that loop going, I think you just push down the authentic, innocent parts of you that just want to be happy and enjoy your life. And that's tragic. That's a terrible thing. And I think it's very common that we all kind of go through those experiences, but we need to do better at calling that shit out within ourselves and not letting that procrastination, that kind of insecurity win out. What I'm finding with something as stupid as walking down the street and filming a video and putting it on YouTube on my potato camera is that it's a very liberating feeling. There's no time to think, there's no time to strategize, and you're not opening that window for all of that insecurity and self-doubt and worry to come in. All that you're doing is kind of living in the present moment and putting something out there. I feel like 100 odd people have watched the last few episodes, the last few videos, which is awesome. And I'm sure the click-through rate may be about 1%, and sure the retention rate may be about 1%, which means that the vast majority of people are opening this, seeing my ugly mug and thinking, yeah, gross. I'm gonna go watch porn instead. And kudos to them. You do you, buddy. But for those 1 or 2 that stick around, I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you're following what I'm saying, is that life's short. You can't worry about what you're gonna say or what someone's gonna say, because 1, no one actually cares. 2, even if they do, are you really gonna let that stop you? So poo-poo-ka-choo, you do you. And I'm gonna try and not get run over as I'm recklessly crossing roads on a Thursday night in London. Onwards to Old Street. The last thing I'll say on this, the last thing, and then I'll shut up, is that I think what I'm trying to get at embodies this phrase that I've been saying to myself a lot recently, which is that thinking problems cannot be solved directly by thinking. They can only be solved indirectly by action. You can't try to think your way out of overthinking. You can't try to think your way out of self-doubt or worry or insecurity, because you're trying to approach solving a problem with the very means that have got you in that problem in the first place. The only way is to indirectly do it. So that's what I would suggest. By forcing yourself into action, but not allowing yourself to kind of be overwhelmed by the very thing that is keeping you bound. It's like the hand trying to clap itself. Doesn't make any sense. Once again, thinking problems cannot be solved directly by thinking. They can only be solved indirectly by action. And speaking of action, my God, I'd like a gyros.